a legendary and revered name in timepieces. Omega Seamaster family has been around for decades. Even though it has undergone several revisions and model updates over the years, the Omega Seamaster Diver 300 meters is undoubtedly the most popular model in the collection as of the last 3 decades or so. James Bond has become synonymous with the strict dive watch, helping to define what a high-end watch of this type should be like in the 21st century. In this video, we will review the ceramic model with the blue dial in greater detail and talk about its place in the modern market for high-end diving watches. Okay, let's dive in. The Omega Seamaster brand has been around since 1948, but it wasn't until 1957 when the first authentic diving Seamaster watch was introduced that anyone understood the significance of the name and the rotating bezel. Today, the Seamaster is unquestionably one of the 2 major brand pillars, along with the Speedmaster. It comes in a wide range of models, each with dozens of variations, and its enormous size can overwhelm even the biggest watch nerds. We examine the Seamaster Diver 300 to establish the scene. We should take a moment to think about a few dive watches from the contemporary Seamaster collection. The Seamaster 300, a model that falls under Omega's heritage division and draws heavily on the vintage design aesthetic of the Omega Seamaster 300 of the late 1950s and early 1960s, is the one that comes the closest to the original design. But the Seamaster Diver 300, which made its debut in 1993, is without a doubt the Seamaster that attracts the most fanfare and interest from enthusiasts. Introducing a watch with a focus on professional diving that is still luxurious, has a manual helium release valve, a signature wave engraving on the dial, a master chronometer certification, a significant tie to James Bond, and costs around $5,000. For this video, we have the blue dial ceramic version on a bracelet, but digging into the watch itself, let's discuss wearability. The new Omega Seamaster Diver 300 has a case diameter of 42 mm, a lug-to-lug measurement of 49 mm, and a thickness of 13.5 mm. The watch has a noticeable presence without feeling overly bulky and wears slightly smaller than its actual size, more like 41 mm in actual use. The Diver 300 meters has a reasonable thickness of 13.5 mm in line with its positioning as a professional diver and its water resistance to 300 meters, though the highly faceted case architecture does aid in just breaking up the visual perception in heft. I just want to be clear about this. Due in part to the helium escape valve that protrudes at 10, the Seamaster Diver 300 is not a small watch. The manually operated screw-down method is typically regarded as the most divisive feature of this design and does optically increase the case's actual and perceived distance. A screw-down crown that is polished and signed to 3 secures the watch's 300 meters of water resistance by working with the screw-down case back. The Diver 300, as is frequently the case with Omega, has an impressively well-finished case and bracelet, with linear brush surfaces primarily across the central case and eye-catching polishing on the distinctive turned 20mm lug set. Between them is a screwed-in 5-link bracelet in the style of the 1990s, which is primarily brushed with a few small polished elements on its inner links. This bracelet doesn't taper and ends with a male push button deployment clasp. It also offers a conventional holding extension and a micro-adjustment extension system that is about as good as anything in its price range. As a result of these class-specific benefits, the final product has a bubbled thickness of 7mm and a length of 42mm. A 120-click unidirectional elapsed time bezel with a blue ceramic insert that matches the dial's color rests on top of the case. Its scalloped edges make it simple to hold, and the action is nearly flawless with little to no play and a satisfying audible response. A nice view of the eye-catching dial beneath is made possible by the sloping nature of the bezel, which seamlessly transitions to the slightly domed sapphire crystal that is coated on both sides with anti-reflective material. The laser-engraved wave motif which has roots in 1995, and the blue-dialed Seamaster Diver 300, worn by Pierce Brosnan and GoldenEye, which marked the first time Omega appeared on the wrist of 007, have to be considered this watch's defining characteristics in recent years. Instead of being stamped, the waves on the dial are deeply carved into the glossy blue ceramic surface, which creates a seamless texture backdrop that helps to unify the other dial elements. In addition to the applied circular and rectangular indices on the skeletonized handset, which has become an easy way to recognize this model family, the dial's outer edge features a distinctive mini track in the shape of a railway, which functions in conjunction with them to indicate the time. While there is a considerable amount of text, it's executed with a fairly small typeface that assists in making it less obtrusive, with the Omega word mark, Seamaster in red, and the professional all at 12 with the coaxial and master chronometer and the depth rating at 6. For the eagle eye, there is the dial ceramic construction that is going to be noted, with a 002 very lightly engraved just below the dial center, with the date aperture neatly tucked into the 6th position. The watch glows well in practice with the blue lume used everywhere, with the minute hand and the bezel marker, which glows green to indicate their diving-specific functionality. The indices and hands are both thickly filled with superluminova for nighttime use. Overall, this dial strikes a balance between the need for legibility in a good dive watch design and the chance to highlight Omega's expertise in finishing. Now that almost the entire front surface of the watch is glossy, the Diver 300 feels much more eye-catching than the typical tool watch and subliminally exudes looks indicative of its upscale position. But in this case, unlike many dive watches, we do have an open sapphire exhibition case back that lets you see the caliber 8800 oscillating movement inside. It would therefore be accurate to say that Omega has, in comparison to the majority of the other major mass-market luxury brands, played a significant role in providing innovation to the watch industry's movement technology for decades, most notably in the form of the coaxial escapement invented by Dr. George Daniels in the 1970s. To decrease sliding friction and lengthen the service interval, the coaxial system uses a 3-pallet system rather than the conventional 2-pallet system with a Swiss lever. Omega has embraced the coaxial statement since 1999 and now uses the system in the vast majority of its calibers, including the recently unveiled new Speedmaster Professional. The 8800 caliber used in this Diver 300 offers almost all of the latest Omega movement technology, including a master chronometer certification that has been approved by METAS, the Swiss Federal Institute of Metrology. This certification includes 8 demanding tests and an increased accuracy standard of 0 to plus 5 seconds per day, which is higher than the cost standard, additionally testing the watch's entire case as well as the movement. The high magnetism resistance of this watch, which offers a resistance of up to 15,000 gallons, is another advantage. In addition, the 8800 uses a bidirectional winding with an oscillating weight and a free-strung balance with a silicone balance ring. Additionally, when you look past the list of technical features, this caliber is generally well decorated for the price. You have some beveling and polishing of screw heads, with spiral waves across the rotor and the bridges. Even though this finishing is automated, it is impressive that, in comparison to many other dive watches on the market, the upgraded caliber can be seen at all and has a nice, appealing appearance. Omega caliber has 3.5 Hz and 25,200 vibrations per hour. It does have hand winding and hacking that stops in the second hand, and you pull the crown all the way back. It also has a power reserve of 55 hours. Contrary to some of the other Omega coaxial calibers, with a dual barrel system, this will be operated on a single barrel. Now that we've covered the review, let's discuss the Seamaster Diver 300 and its positioning. Do you think the $5,000 dive watch is ideal? Well, I don't think that there's necessarily a perfect watch out there for any price range. But I would say that this is a class-leading dive watch and kind of sets that gateway and window into the world of luxury dive watches. Of course, you have to think about Black Bay. But at $5,000, this falls into a special category because it is more comparable to watches that sell for, let's say, $7,000 to $8,000, if not more. Comparable to the Black Bay in terms of finishing, it's close in some ways, but Omega has really delivered a nice package. Now, before we dive deeper with this dive watch, please give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying it so far, and stay tuned until the very end to find out more about the Omega Seamaster Diver 300. I do want to discuss some of the frequent criticisms that have been leveled against this watch and this particular piece of the collection. You must consider the time this watch was made and what it actually meant for Omega. When the case silhouette was actually developed in the 1990s, Omega was a different brand at the time. Omega was also in a better place than they are now, really solidifying its position as a top manufacturer, and they were before that. However, the sector was evolving. Simply put, they were seeking the next level that would allow them to return to mainstream acclaim, popularity, and James Bond status. And this watch completely altered Omega over the past 3 decades with its connection to 7 Pierce Brosnan movies. It is therefore understandable why they are so loyal to the design, but numerous minor details give it a slightly dated feeling. For some, the helium escape valve will just be completely unnecessary. Even those with prior diving experience will realize that this is unnecessary. Speaking of the bracelet, some might point out that despite being very well done, it will likely look a little more like the 90s than it should. Additionally, the clasp, while good, will have a bubble effect that you can feel on the back of your wrist. However, as you're already noticing, these are more points from a design standpoint. What is a $5,000 watch when you consider where this watch is positioned from? How should it appear? How ought it to feel? In many ways, this is it. This watch has a nice finish, an excellent in-house movement that is retail priced and has some up specs in terms of accuracy, magnetic resistance, and specification. Additionally, the dial colors and variations are numerous, and this thing just looks like the part with that wave dial and ceramic bezel. It does have a propensity to possibly include some blingy elements, and some will argue that this may go against what the Seamaster traditionally was. But I believe that in the end, there is a reason why this watch performs so well, and that is that it almost perfectly exemplifies what a $5,000 dive watch ought to be. This watch, along with the Speedmaster, is just 2 staples, and I would imagine maybe one of the best-selling, if not the best-selling model from Omega. I think it is priced and positioned appropriately, and I think it makes a lot of sense. This watch is undoubtedly the best dive watch you can find for $5,000, in all honesty. However, in my opinion, there is still a ton of room for improvement, and I consider that to be positive news. And given how the market is evolving, I believe manufacturers would be in a great position in the market of 2022. Okay guys, that's my take on the 300-meter Omega Seamaster Diver. What do you think then? I'm aware that this model family is utterly beloved, and for good reason. But I'd be interested in hearing your opinion. How do you think it stands now? Do you believe it requires any updates? I'd love to read your comments below. I'm Megan. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel, like, and share this video. And as you know, Rolex also has a dive watch. But did you know that this dive watch is now being questioned as the greatest watch ever? If you want to know more, click and watch the next video here.